Tuesday. You know the drill. We are going to get started in just 1 second. Oh, look, that was faster than last week. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Right or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee Boslaw. We are going to have so much fun because me and Heather Ann have already been having fun, laughing at each other, mostly laughing at me. But I'm sure I'm going to laugh at her at some point. I mean, come on. If you have not already hit the like and subscribe button, go ahead, do that right now. Do it, do it. So you have to tell people a whole bunch of times before they do it, right? Exactly. Do it. We're over 350 subscribers, so I mean, let's hit 375. That'd be great. Thanks.
I think we can manifest that right now.
Right? Do it. So with us, we have Heather Ann Ferri. Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm excited to talk to you today. I'm doing well, thanks.
Yay. Where are you joining us from?
Oh, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the land of Mr. Rogers, if you remember him.
Oh, I do. I used to love that show and Canadian girl, Mr. Dress Up.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
yes.
a very similar kind of style type deal. On at the same time back in the day. And Mr. Dress Up had a tickle trunk, and in it was all the costumes. And because I am a drama queen, I also had my own, and I would keep all of my costumes and all the
I
things.
love it. We're gonna get along really, really well.
Perfect. Love that. So tell us a little bit about who Heather Ann is.
Okay.
This is the hardest question of the whole thing.
I know, it's like where do I start? I want to provide some background for the audience so they get a little taste of it, So we mentioned Mr. Rogers, and I never grew up watching Mr. Rogers. Wish I had, wish my mother and parents had, but studied him later in life when I was healing all these generational trauma stuff, and started to tap into him on the other side, as some call downloads or channels, to heal what we call the inner child, to heal that inner child. And so part of my storyline when we're talking about mental health and all these what we call sort of labels or diagnose, however way you want to interpret them, is I grew up in an all-American family home, and my parents married young, and they were high school sweethearts. They had a lot of generational traumas. And one of many turning points was when I was 8 years old. My mother came into my bedroom in the mornings, and she would attack me from behind, choking me almost to death while screaming horrific things at me.
At 8?
Yeah, 8 to 9. And so my whole world changed, and I had to obviously put on a lot of masks. And I was in a lot of pain that nobody recognized. I was shy after that point. I lost my voice. I didn't talk to anybody. I was sick all the time, over-medicated. So when clients come to me over-medicated, I kind of understand that process. And it usually goes back to childhood in some sense or another, And it was really, a lot happened in those next few years of identity and identity loss and hiding the treasures of who I really was as a child, because I had to survive from there on in a household that didn't make any sense. And also my life was being threatened all the time. Now, my mother was very sort of theatrical in a sense. My parents were great dancers, and socially you would think they were a great couple. Behind closed doors, my view is that there was a lot going on in battling and identity crisis and all that. But because they loved to dance and they were really good, they put me in the theater arts. And that kind of was my saving grace growing up. So I trained in dance, acting, and all of that. And there was a lot of beautiful things that came about. My imagination, my alchemist, to being able to, I was obsessed with turning, and I was in tap shoes. Tap shoes were my voice. So I wasn't allowed to talk. So I had this natural ability. I was really good at tap dancing,
Nice.
And so I used it as a tool. And these tools carried me on, into my 20s in my showbiz career that I talk a lot about in my talks and videos and books. And then in my late 30s, I got really sick. You know, I moved
Oh
back to Pittsburgh. I got really sick. I started to lose my ability to walk. And that was really scary. And
no.
that
Yeah.
led me into taking the healing arts, music, dance, all that training and expertise,
Yeah.
and then saying, I'm not going to be these labels, I'm not going to be these pills, and starting to meditate and go the road less traveled to start to learn ancient sciences. And I tell you what, if somebody would have told me at age 10 that I would be having a private trauma practice where people from all over the world would come hire me, medical doctors, to rewire their brain, I would have said, you are funny. You're so funny.
Right? Oh,
But
you said cray cray. Okay, so oh my goodness, so much to unpack there. I just like to randomly interrupt, so bear with me
go
when I
for it.
do
I do the
that.
same thing.
Okay, so like I said, there's so much there. Let's go way, way, way back first. You said it started at 8. Was there some kind of like crack that, a straw that broke the camel's back? Like what happened at 8? I mean, you might not even remember, but was there something that was significant that
I think it's a really great question. It's a great question. And I do remember a lot of my childhood now from healing my brain, from rewiring my brain with sacred brain meditation protocols. And I really want to stress that because you can. And I think it's important to remember things because then you heal and you get anti-aging and lighter. So for me, there wasn't a trigger point. As far as I'm concerned, I was a really sweet child, didn't misbehave, but as far as my mom, there were signs before that. So, I remember at age 3, 4, 5 years old, her sort of arguing with my father, putting him down a lot verbally. There was a lot of expectations, and he was also having a lot of issues with his family and their business. So when I was 7, my father was fired from his father, the family business. So that's
Oh,
trauma in itself too. My
yeah.
mom's not handling that well, and so their relationship is challenged. Back
Okay.
then, we didn't even really hear the word therapy. I mean, we're talking, I'm born in the 70s. So, that wasn't even it was kind of looked down upon, you
Mhm.
just slip everything under the table. My mom's therapy was a television set, and it would have benefited her watching Mr. Rogers. She watched soap operas, and she believed all of that
Oh
dialogue,
my
which,
gosh. I
yeah,
mean, I enjoy a good soap opera. However, it is not real life, you know?
no, no, it's not
No,
real
no.
life. And I
My
figured
current
that out at a young age. And I think it's really cool when I started working with clients because having the creative arts and then having ancient sciences to really have them tap back into, okay, yeah, we're going to pull up some stuff that's uncomfortable,
Mhm.
obviously. But at the same time, you're going to pull up things inside of you that are amazing. Children are
Yeah.
amazing and resilient and in that. So for as regards to what initiated that, well, when you study trauma, like generational traumas, there are programs. We all have lots of programs. So I know
Yes.
my programs. I have inklings of generationally my mom's lineage programs, but we all still have our own separate programs too. And so that's where that deep dive goes into base. Her sort of energy after that, the years follow, almost like a switch turned on, was
Okay.
more of I own you, your
Okay.
property.
Yes.
I don't care what your voice or, and all the awards I won on stage, my daughter's great. Aren't I great?
Yes. I had a feeling that that's kind of like I didn't think that it was, an 8-year-old girl did something wrong. I mean, in the eyes of the abuser, it could simply be that you looked at me wrong. Um it's horrifically true. Um
Sure.
but that does make sense that, as you become older, especially 8, 8 is that age because both my kids sort of experience this. 8, you become your own person. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
age kids are becoming their own
Mm-hmm.
person with their own thoughts that they
Mm-hmm.
want to express. So it makes sense that that would be the age that all of a sudden it's, hold on, you are mine and you don't get your own thoughts. So I'm going to influence you in a way that is not ideal. Um, but
You know what?
influence
I'm
you to do that.
tapping into something that I've never spoken from what you just said. So I'm going to say thank you for that. I'm tapping into deeper into that question. I was light. I was a lot of light and joy.
Okay.
And I think my mom had a possession, a demon, an entity of sorts. We see this in the spiritual warfare world that we're in. Obviously, this plays a part in my work. I do believe in spells and trances and programs being, and I do believe there was a possession over her so that my light triggered her. And I've never voiced that. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you that, we get something a little special. um, okay, and how long did that kind of behavior go on for?
That went on for off and on. She would only do it when my father and brother were not home, obviously, in the morning before I went to school. And that went on from what I remember-ish and see the signs of pictures, because you can really see it, from between the ages of 8 to 9.
Okay.
And then what I would say then is that's when I label the brain damage. I didn't really even think of that until I started entering the trauma world. And I go through these labels, not that the doctors labeled me, but starting to understand, obviously I had PTSD, obviously I had OCD, obviously I had everything,
Yeah.
And I had to rewire a lot. So that's why I became kind of a trauma brain expert, you know what I mean? But the cool thing is I never lived by those labels.
Yeah.
That's my story. And that's what I want to share with the audience today is I never said poor me. I never blamed. I never, even though it's just not something that, I had a will. I had a will, to say, I'm going to be the best person I can be, and I'm light, and I'm going to get through this. I think also having been trained as a professional dancer and, working in the industry of the theater arts in New York City, you're disciplined. So discipline was not an issue for me.
Okay.
And that's where my clients really come in, because if you're not willing to do some work, meditation work, where you're doing it to rewire the brain, and journaling and being really engaged and making changes in your life, not complaining about them, I believe anything is possible with tools.
Yeah. And that's what we love talking about here. Okay, so that went on, and it makes sense that after a while you're just going to be like, okay, I need to just survive.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm going to do whatever I can to not be hurt anymore.
Which was perform.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. And that the abuse would kind of change. I'm not going to say end or peter out. Like at first I'm like kind of petering out, but that's not what it is. It's a change, because the abuse is very much in situations like this. The abuse is very much still there because you're living in the fear. It is the strangest thing. There are these couple of people, they're just walking snakes down my street. Like, literally, they have these giant boa constrictors. So I'm sitting in front of my giant boa constrictors around their shoulders, and two of them. And they just walked. This is like the third time I've seen them in the past few months. That's so
interesting. Well, what you just mentioned is the key here. Nobody asked this question. Nobody kind of brings this up. But yeah, it does change. I mean, I was terrified of my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, deathly terrified. Every day I'm living in a house with somebody that tried to kill me. Yeah. And you can't escape that. Even if you're brain damaged and you don't remember it, you still on some level remember it. Yeah. And so for me, it was survival. And the other key component of why I think my story into my private trauma work was so interesting for clients that found me is that I was over-medicated. I was over-medicated from age 9 to 16. And I honestly had a lot of anger issues to work out in the medical field. Yeah. I was over-medicated in, 22, 23, 24 years old. And then I remember the moment where I just threw out the bottles and was like, I'm just going to have to deal. I mean, it was a hard journey. But so when people come to me with labels and stuff, I just use it as, okay, it's this area of the brain, it's the nervous system, and now we're going to work with that. And I've seen so many incredible things happen with people's brains and health,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely want to talk about that because it's a very hot topic. But just I want, because I got distracted by the snakes, I'm gonna go back to that other thought I had. In abusive situations, the abuser is not stopping. They are just recognizing that you're now listening, and they are always able to reinforce again if you are stop listening or stop doing what they perceive as something that they want you to do. So, as much as you're saying, it wasn't daily anymore, obviously, and you've said it, the trauma's still there, the fear is there, you have no voice, so you're going to perform, you're going to do whatever it is that you need to do to not be hurt again.
Right.
So you said age 9 the medication started.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Well, I would wake up with swollen, my throat would be swollen. Sore throats, ear infections. It was all here because of the attacks.
Sick. Oh, yeah.
So that's where when people have sicknesses, most of my clients, I would say 90% come with health issues. They don't think they come with trauma. Even though I'm a trauma expert.
The mind affects the body. We have talked about that a lot on this show. The mind affects the body so significantly.
And there's amnesia is a real thing. I had it in my 20s. And also when you're not ready to deal with some of the stuff, you're just not ready. You store it. The body will never lie. I know that. I know the body inside and out. My body has drastically changed, even in bone structure, believe it or not, by shaking trauma out. But, I can't judge or look back at the medical system, even though it's when I look at childhood pictures and I look like I had a massive stroke. It's alarming that not one adult kind of said what's going on with this little girl who's shy and quiet and pure.
And again, we're talking about the 70s and obviously as you age, and the 80s, and even I'm gonna say, so I'm an 80s baby, so I'm gonna say even in the 90s it wasn't really something that people were very maybe not even observant, but just they didn't want to rock that boat. They didn't want to bring trouble.
Yeah, and I also think as far as my family system, I think they all, I don't know how to say that they have blinders on, but it is sort of having blinders on. You don't hear certain things. You don't see certain things. You're kind of in your own little world. There wasn't anybody that really paid attention.
And that could be, and obviously I don't know the situation fully, but that could be, pulling from my own trauma experience, that they were doing what they needed to do to keep themselves safe. Right. So sometimes it feels like, and this is something I had to work through, it feels like, oh my gosh, you don't care about me. You're ignoring me. You're not noticing the signs. You're not asking me. You're not whatever. Right. But when it comes down to it, through lots of therapy, you come to realize that they are doing what we perceive as ignoring us, but it's them protecting themselves. And so when I started looking at it that way, going, oh, you did this because you were protecting yourself. You weren't ignoring me, even though I felt like it. You felt like you couldn't take the steps necessary to help me because it potentially would have made the situation worse.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
can't,
scary.
I can't speak for my father. He's on the other side. I mean, we worked through a lot of things on the side. I can't speak for my brother. I think there's some guilt there. But what I can say, too, is throughout the journey, because I've been very present in this healing process. I left my family system when I was 40 years old. I went back in during COVID. I'm 53 now. So it's been a journey. My family has not engaged in any asking questions or anything. It's just been, oh, you're sick. Okay. And so there's a part of you as an adult, when you become healthy, there are certain expectations, basic ones that are that I expect. And so there was a disheartening, a lot of grieving of, oh, okay. And maybe they are afraid, or maybe they just don't want to believe.
Yep.
But I can't change that because I have these health issues, right? And I have these things that have to actually be healed. And that's why the hardest part when working with clients sometimes in understanding their history or her story and going through some things is to have them detach or possibly walk away from some of the energies in their life, because that's what created the diseases. And until they can get on their own, that's sometimes the hardest, you know, and it can be family, it could be best friends, it could be a partner, but you have to make that conscious decision for yourself
Yes.
If someone's not willing to have some sort of empathy or compassion, you know, and I find that a lot of light workers, a lot of healers tend to be sort of in the same predicaments over and over again of
Yeah.
nobody's help that I've helped so many people. I actually helped my mother when I came back in, healed her, helped my brother, healed him of something. I helped. That was the overgiver. That was the little girl of look at me.
Yeah.
Am I worth love? Am I worth showing up when I'm sick? Am I worth saying I'm sorry? These things didn't happen. And so I think it's to each its own. You're on your own journey with your own personalities around you.
And I've always said to the kids, ever since they were little, because kids love to blame other people, right? I don't want to be in trouble. It was their fault. I'd always say, well, I don't care what they did. Talking about like something that happened at school.
Sure.
I don't care what they did because that's not my kid. I can't affect them. What I care about is your choices because also you can't affect their choices. You can only make your own choices.
I love that.
Right? So that is really
Powerful.
significant. Yeah, really powerful things to think about that no matter what, as kids, as adults, anytime in our life, the only person that we have control over is ourselves.
And so I
Period.
think the people that show up for whatever type of work it is, but I know my clients, a lot of them were their own heroes.
Yeah.
Because they were brave enough to step outside the box
Yeah.
and show up and be accountable no matter what and say, this is going to change. This cycle is going to stop with me. This generational cursing is going to stop with me. And so that's what you're feeding into your as parenting, which is brilliant. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, so you started you were very sickly. So did they just put you on like antibiotics then?
Oh, I was on tons of antibiotics. I mean, you name it. I was on it. You know, I was just always congested.
So they just kept putting you on various antibiotics for okay. Okay, not what I thought you were going to say. A lot of people, when they say over medicated, it's like, oh, they were putting me on antidepressants plus ADHD plus anxiety plus.
I wasn't on those types of pills.
Okay. No. All right. So you were on that stuff for, it sounds like a long time.
Yeah, it destroyed my gut. I became a gut health specialist too. You know, you sort of have to learn a lot of sciences when you're healing all this stuff. So yeah, it destroys your gut.
Yeah. And I mean, I love my I love my antibiotics when I am sick and I need them because when you need them, you need them. However, they are not supposed to be used long term. That's not what their intended purpose is.
No, and there's actually a lot of natural things you can use besides that are quicker.
Yeah.
So when you work with someone like me, we kind of introduce you to that science that's not necessarily mainstream and profitable, but it's choices. You know, so there's a lot of herbs that heal, parasites in the body. Glyphosate is a big thing, obviously, in America. We have a lot of toxic water now. But also, I work with a Japanese medical device that produces 7 waters that they use in Japan. And one of them, you know, 2.7 electrolytes reduced water kills strep in 7 minutes when you gargle with it. So there's a lot of sciences Americans are not being exposed to. And that's, you know, everybody can come to their own equation of that. Is it politics? Is it money? Is it whatever? But with the people who come to me, they're open. They're ready. They're willing to say, okay, I'm going to read your ebook and ask you questions because I know that you have come through something. And you kind of want to follow people who have actually, like, I've anti-aged a lot. People mention that a lot recently. If you go on my website, before and after, I show the before and after pictures just to show you how old and how my face looks. I look really inward, energetic. You can see it. And now I'm outward. Well, that I didn't do a makeover. I actually cleansed and detoxed these things. And you can too. And it's not as hard when you work with an expert. It can happen within like 30 days. You can start to really, really start to see some upgrades. You know what I mean? So yeah, the medical thing is interesting because ironically, which I don't think is ironic, is when I started moving into a private practice for many years, I got a lot of doctors and scientists and therapists, and I loved them as human beings. But what I started to learn as I was notating everything. They knew none of the stuff that I was being downloaded and given and exploring, from sort of my DNA. I only had a few physical teachers. And so they were my guinea pigs, I was like, oh my God, that works. Oh my God, that works. And then it started to see like, why aren't we studying these things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense, right? There's so many different things out there. Like I love my naturopath and the different vitamins, and you're missing this and that or whatever. But I'm also I like the holistic approach, like all that stuff. But also I go to my doctor because there's certain things that I need, and that's
sure. To each its own. I think we have the best
do all the
emergency. If you need something done quickly, emergency, we've got it. You know what I mean? Like we're great. We're just not great with chronic disease. I mean, the stats show that. So
yeah, same here in Canada. You got a chronic illness, well, there's a wait list. There's a wait list for that. Don't you worry. All right. So around in your 20s, I believe you said you kind of tossed the pills away.
Yeah, I had like a near death experience. So
Girl, what?
yeah, I was in New York City. I was hired to do Toy Fair, which is a pretty big gig. Then after that, I got sick, thought I was having a heart attack. All these symptoms can be emotional traumas.
Yeah.
That's why. And then I was really scared. So I went back to Pittsburgh. They did tons of tests. My throat swelled up again. Almost like I had mumps, but I didn't have mumps. They had no idea what I had. Guess what they did? They put me on antibiotics. I'm in my childhood bedroom again, dying. And I was very sick, lost a lot of weight. And I kind of didn't know if I was going to survive it. And then I had a Jesus moment, and I'm not necessarily of a specific religion. I believe in Jesus and Yahshua and all the family members and think they're wonderful. And came through above me and just basically kind of said, if you feel like you need to come with me, you can come. If you stay, it's going to be challenging for a while. And I said, I'm going to stay. And I thought a while was like, maybe a year.
And now you're in your 50s, you said?
And it's like, it's been quite a few years, you know what I mean? But God bless. And when I woke up the next day, that's when I threw out the pills and I said no more. And I went back. I heard a voice, get out of this house. So I got out of the house, went back to New York. And the difference that I was very weak, but the difference that changed in me is I did start to talk to God, pray.
Oh, okay.
Before shows, once I got back into the show business world, I was so grateful for getting my health back. That I was like, I'm so grateful I can dance again. I'm so grateful I can, because even carrying a bag of groceries 2 blocks was exhausting for me. So that's the other thing that I kind of have when clients come to me is I've had some really bad sicknesses and hard times, even though I'm extremely strong and healthy now. And I think I understand it, and I understand the steps of how to regenerate and get back on your feet.
Yes. That is a very hard thing to do. Like I've had a lot of, well, not a lot, but some chronic illness people on the podcast, and that is one of the things, right? And I mean, myself, I dealt with some of that. I mean, I still deal with some of that. That's fun. And it's a mind F, let's say. When it happens, when you go from this physically fit doing stuff person to this chronically ill person to trying to take your life back, it is insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. It can bring out, like, depending on where you're at in your journey, there's no judgment. Obviously, for me, I mean, it was extremely challenging and heartbreaking, but at the same time, doing meditations, drinking a better water, I started living the life. I'm taking care of myself. I'm rejuvenating. I'm moving forward. It's kind of like preparing for a show. I'm rehearsing, but I'm working on self. And a lot of, if you don't come from the theater arts or music or any of that industry, like a lot of my clients, you don't know that it's okay to have more time for yourself to do these things. Like a lot of
Yes.
times it's hard because people make you feel bad for whatever reasons. I don't get that, guilty, but it's not selfish to invest in yourself.
Sometimes I think maybe people are a little bit jealous is
Yeah, I think
the
that's a
word coming to
mhm.
mind. And they also sometimes don't. I remember in high school, somebody was telling me that I was changing and whatever because I was going to youth group more often. I'm like, hey, but this is not a bad change. You're just mad because I'm happy and I'm not hurting
Right.
myself. This is okay, and it's really hard to process, especially as a teenager, that somebody would not be excited that you are doing things that help you to stay healthy and doing things that are not hurting you. It's very strange, but change is hard for some people.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because what happens is when you start to heal things, however way you define your healing, way you define what you're working through, it is common to have either your work change, your boss change, your some of your friends change. It's
Hmm.
just normal because you're operating on a different frequency. You
Yeah.
know, not everybody's there to be there the whole time. People come in for a season. You hear that statement, and I think there's a
Yeah,
lot of
that's what I was
truth.
thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, are you playing with a Rubik's Cube right
It's
now?
not a okay, it's not
I
a
love
Rubik's
it.
cube. It is just a fidget thingy and it just does the same thing over and over, and it's I love it, and it helps me to focus,
That's awesome.
and I just play with it constantly.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah, I
Much more
am
productive, and you're using
obsessed.
your hands, which initiates the brain. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm a little bit obsessed with it. I love it. I bought my kid one as well for Christmas, and she's like, "Oh, that's cool." And don't ask her where it is now. And I'm like, "You could have just given it to me." All right, no, no. It's fine. It's fine. It's totes fine. Um, Okay, so as we're getting on with the interview, we're getting closer and closer to the end. What are some, and I mean, we've kind of talked about this obviously, but what are some coping strategies that you found really help when you are still like flashbacky, for lack of a better phrase?
So I don't have necessarily what you would call flashbacky because what happens in the programs that I do and what I've done with myself is we shake out the trauma. So that's involuntary shaking, somatic shaking. I have had to do extensive amount, of shaking where I don't control it. The sacred brain meditations deal with breath patterns, Sanskrit universal vowels, finger, like you learn the piano, finger placements. So we're really getting it out and rewiring it. So when I think about the childhood scenes, I don't have any reaction whatsoever. We're getting the trauma out. We're also understanding the psychology, spirituality, whatever soul purpose, whatever that person is aligned with, or just getting it out simply to have better health. So I don't have those types of triggers. And it was great when I went back into the family system during COVID because I was definitely saw that my work was working in the sense of how I was communicating with the family system. There was a lot of challenging situations, but I saw, oh, I'm coming into a system where I did all this work and nobody did anything. They're the
Mm-hmm.
same. And having those interesting conversations with my mom, and then when my father died, I left the system a second time, just due to her emotional, mental,
Mm,
psychological abuse. That
yeah.
never changed because you don't have to change if you're enabled by a system. And you don't have to change if I'm going to, before I didn't have a voice and now I have a voice. And now
Yeah.
I'm using my voice and that's not okay with her. So it was just so simple for me to just walk away with grace, and I actually walked away with grace. And I don't judge how people walk away in their life, but I'm very at peace with how I did so. So I don't believe we have to live with triggers. And I had severe PTSD off the charts. So I understand that. Now, what happens when I have problems?
Yes,
What
that's
happens
even
when
better.
I have fights or things are coming up? I go to breath work because breath work is the foundation of everything I've ever learned with trauma. And it's the quickest way to get yourself back into the body, to get the nervous system balanced again. and trauma gets stored in the psoas. So the psoas get tight, the breath starts to reverse. And also, I do breath work every day just because it's how I become more creative and how I have more energy and sleep better. So it is a part of my lifestyle. And I find that a lot of CEOs that I've, counseled and work with, they have a 20-minute breath workout, daily. And this help initiate. So let's say somebody had an argument. The first thing I would say is go sit down and do your breath work before you're reacting to them, to make sure you understand why you're reacting to them.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. We've had a few people really talk about breath work. So I love when we kind of revisit those moments and hear more on the topic, because everybody adds their own perspective, which that's what it's all about. When you're talking about the psoas holding onto things and whatever. So when I did my 200-hour yoga teacher trainer,
Yep.
I took one of the courses I took was Yoga Fit for Warriors, and one of the poses you're basically in like a lay down butterfly, and then you slowly bring your knees up a little bit and then let them drop, and you slowly bring up the knees.
I know
up a little
exactly
bit.
what you're talking
about. Yeah. And then eventually, as you're doing that, you lose control of it in a good way.
Sure.
And the legs start to shake, just like you're talking, and it is that release of so much stuff.
Right.
So much stuff. And I used to do it quite a lot right after my training, because I was remembering to do it. And I haven't done it in a while. But then you just triggered my memory to do it. I'm like, I should do that again. That was fantastic release. And I remember how good I felt afterwards. So I can attest to it. It helps.
Yeah. So I'm Kundalini Yoga certified. And so the brain protocols come from India. And they have PubMed research as far as the ADHD, PTSD, OCD, and childhood trauma, which is on my website. But what I want to share with you is too, so that was the beginning stage for a lot of my clients, teaching them how to do movements and breath work to then go home and be able to shake. But then, depending on your ancestral bloodline and how much is stored in your bone, there's a lot of water protocols to do that get more advanced. That really helps. So, because a lot of women have frozen hips, and I do think it's generationally, unfortunately. So the goal is to get facilities for younger girls to learn this stuff, not because we want them to shake out trauma, but because we want to make sure they don't have trauma, so that when they're pregnant, that's not being passed down through the bloodline. We could stop these cycles. So a lot of the things that I'm doing too right now in leadership is working with leaders who have either facilities or groups or do group events to teach aspects of these formulas, so that we can get more advanced in it. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention to the audience with breath work, if you're like, well, I've done a yoga class here or there, because I've had a lot of clients come to me, and it is a big difference to have somebody's hands on your body to understand posture issues, or your, even when I do Zooms, I'm like, your shoulders are up. Do not, to breathe.
Goodness, yes.
I have 2 breathwork series on my YouTube channel that are perfectly free. And I put them out this year because really they're the foundation if you want to become a private client to do the brain program. So we know you have a foundation of how I teach, and also a foundation of breath work and psychology behind your breath. So it's one is breath work for leaders, nervous system mastery. It's 9 videos. And the other is breath work for stress, trauma, and emotional pain, 5 videos. Get a notebook, get a pen, and use your hand to write, because that's 10,000 movements, not computer typing, which is only about 8. So we don't want our children typing. We want our children writing in cursive again. That stimulates the brain, and we can create a smarter brain, a super conscious brain. But that's where people could start to learn about my teaching methods, and also just to understand, like, just doing a breath exercise isn't really enough nowadays. We really need to understand what we're trying to learn with our own breath, and so that's what I start to teach you.
Oh, very nice. All right. Okay, so I always like to pose slightly random. It's a similar question, but slightly random. What would be your piece of wisdom to somebody who has had a lot of trauma growing up, and they are now kind of at the point where they're like, hey, but I'm an adult and it's still affecting me. What is your piece of wisdom to them?
Well, if they're aware that it's still affecting them, congratulations on that. Because most people come to me with diagnosis of health issues that are related to trauma. Okay. But you have to take action and do something. If you're listening to this podcast, maybe something led you to this podcast. Maybe it's an angel. Maybe it's an ancestor on the other side nudging you to investigate me, to investigate who I am and what I do, to so I say, like when you're walking down the street and you're at the park and you see this book on the bench and it's about breath work, that's not a coincidence. That's a guide. If you're open to it, if you initiate. So if somebody's come through a lot of trauma, they've done, and I will say this too, I'm not everybody's teacher because I'm going to require you to do work. And if you don't do work, we will not work together. I'm a master at this point. So I want people, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to do work. Because these sciences will really help you. And my passion is seeing people see how empowered they are when they learn skills. Like I didn't just become a professional dancer. I had teachers and they were hard on me. They're like, that's not the right position. Yeah. If you don't know how to plie to jump, you're going to hurt your Achilles and you're not going to be a professional dancer. So criticism wasn't an issue for me. And I'm not saying criticism in the sense, but what I require is when you come in the next day, you've done your work or you have questions or you're engaging because I'm just the guide. You're the healer. I'm just giving you some tools. The healing is in you. You are capable. Anybody's capable. I've seen people paralyzed. I've worked with people with massive strokes. I've worked with them. So I've worked with people that I say were the underdog.
Oh, okay.
I'm the one that this is the last chance, the underdog situations. Now I'm not saying it was a overnight fix or solution. If you have a massive stroke and you've done it, it took 2 years to get a lot of my clients to 95%, but 95% recovery is a great recovery. If we had that in healthcare, we'd be in great shape.
Right?
So I'm just saying also, like, my other advice, and I'm sure you'll connect to this, is you want to qualify your teachers. That they have either lived experience, because I have doctors that write testimonies for me, scientists, or they have credentials of some sort, and not just speaking online about stuff. It bothers me a little bit how people are implementing ideas about healing trauma that have never had trauma. You know what I mean? Like, be blessed. You're so lucky, but I don't know if you really know what it feels like to, you know what I mean? So make sure you qualify. And also that's what I do if we sat across from each other, because my personality or my energy might not work with yours, and that's okay,
Yes, I say that a lot on this show, more about therapists, but basically the same concept. You're not going to connect with every single one. It just is what it is, and that is fine. So find a different person and find a different person until you connect with one, because as soon as you click, you're going to know you click. And once you have that, transformation is 10 times easier.
Yes. And I don't know I have some testimonies from like 2020, 2021, and then everything got really busy on my page. I have a whole of videos and watch them and listen to the other women and see if you connect. There's one woman that I triggered her all day long, but she kept coming back because she knew I wasn't lying to her. I was the only one not lying. She had done tons of talk therapy, and I would not, and she trusted me. So you just have to find, but I agree with you 100%. And honestly too, sometimes I'll start working with somebody, I'm like, they're not ready for they need to do this, and I'll refer, or they need to, because I need to feel it just as much as you do.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. All right. So, oh, we've talked a whole heck of a lot, and I mean, I suppose in a way you've already shamelessly self-promoted yourself. But this is the time I say, tell us what it is that you are promoting right now, and of course, where to follow you, all the things.
Thanks so much. First of all, thanks for having me on this show. And part of the healing for me is using my voice. And so I'm grateful for those who are listening and allowing me to use my voice. Those tools for you in the audience, Ann Ferri is my YouTube channel. Breathwork for Leaders, you're leading your own life. So you might say, I'm not a leader. I didn't think I was going to be a leader. You're leading your own life. So, and breath work for stress, emotional pain, explore those and share them. That's what the beauty is. Share them. On Facebook, Ann Ferri, there are some posts recently about America and what's happening with our water. If you're a parent, you might want to go on and read some of what I wrote and those short videos. You might want to download my ebook at Ann Ferri called Water Matters. Even if you have a filtration system, it may not be the most effective for what we're dealing with right now in American water, and we could talk through that. So you can message me at youmatter108@gmail.com with any questions. I would say those are the two resources, and if you feel called to do a private session, email. I'll ask you some questions. We'll set up a private session to see if we're compatible and go from there to see what would be accessible reason, what you need. And those are the seeds planted today. I want to finish with saying I bless this channel. I bless Randi-lee, because I like that Lee. And I bless the people who are listening today. I bless you. Thank you so much for listening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing. I mean, it's a hard thing to do. It really is. So I love when guests are very open with us. Yay. Again, if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, I mean, what the heck? I already told you to do it. So do it if you haven't. Share these episodes out. One of the best things you can do if you're not willing to tell your story yet. That sounded really mean. If you're not at a place, and you don't have to be, and that's totally fine to share your story, share these ones. That's why we do them, so you don't have to, and that's
absolutely.
Okay. Share them out. We talk about some really important stuff, but we have fun while we do it, and we laugh, which, I mean, it shouldn't be hard to talk about, right? Like, and mental health should be a regular thing, just like, hey, I have the flu. Well, you know what? Don't come near me. I don't want your sick. But it shouldn't be a scary thing to do. So share these episodes out. Let's make this conversation a little bit easier for everybody to have. Remember, my new book comes out on June 20th. If you have not already pre-ordered, well, go do that as well. Goodbye Too Soon, A Family's Lost by Drug Overdose. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.